of Trustees. It is 6 o'clock on Wednesday, April 15th, 2024, and here we are gathered for our regular monthly Board of Trustees meeting. I hereby call this meeting to order. Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, any public expression? Okay, good. Moving along. Has everyone had the opportunity to read the minutes? Okay, can somebody please make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes have been approved. Report from the Friends.
Okay, so the Friends had an in-person meeting last time they met. They're still very excited about how the lunches are going. The next one is on Wednesday, the 22nd, and it is going to be at Chita Nuova in East Hampton. And I believe that their plan is to squeak in at least one more before summer, when of course they'll take some time off. But they're very excited at how well attended the lunches are, and that, you know, it really brings like a nice sense of community. And so they're great. And then they also, as you know, Friends member Diane Lewis passed away. They discussed what they wanted to do in honor of Diane. And so what the Friends are going to do is they're going to give us the money for the Sag Harbor Reads books this year, and have the Sag Harbor Read book be in celebration of Diane, since she was a teacher and a reader and all of those things. So that is all that's fit to print from the Friends.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Megan, Treasurer's report.
Sure. Okay, as of March 31st, you can see our accounts. The combined dime operating accounts are at 1,540,000 and change. Morgan Stanley's 497,000 and change. Our capital account, Connect One, is 5.
We lost connectivity, but we're back.
Okay. In the amount of, that check was for 83,858 and change. You will see on the, bill payment list, there is a check to Belfour for $0. It got jammed in the printer, so that's why it's there and for zero. And our mortgage has been paid. Right now, our balance is 3,134,249 almost. Total expenses for March were 428,939, which does include that almost 84,000 check to Belfour. So it was a little on the higher end of normal in terms of operating expenses, but nothing too out of the ordinary. On March 16th, we had another treasury note mature. We decided to continue with our reestablishment of the ladder to invest 222,000 into a treasury bill at 3.48% maturing in June, and 90,000 was invested into a treasury bill at 3.5 maturing in October. In terms of year to date, we're a quarter way through the year, and our total expenditures are just under that at 22.9. There's the bill payment list. Payroll was normal. Payroll 5 had 21 employees, payroll 6 had 20, but nothing atypical there.
Thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? Okay, can somebody please make a motion to approve the financial reports and also the warrants within one vote?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, treasurer's report is approved. Thank you. Director.
So Here, so the director's report, thought I'd start with a little correspondence, because I have it. We have two letters that I got, one from the Steinbeck House. It says, Kelly, thank you again to you and your wonderful staff for hosting our high school writing workshop last week. The space is perfect. It allows room for the students to be comfortable and spread out. Thank you especially for the library beanies. They were a huge hit. Diana. Yeah, it's a really good program here. It's nice. So what happens is, as Steinbeck House has a writers sort of retreat with the high schools in the area, where they have an instructor come, and they do a tour of the Steinbeck property, and then they come over here and they do an immersive writing workshop. So they spend the whole day here. It's nice. It's good. It's a nice thing.
Are they using the teen space?
No, they use this room, because they need the whiteboard and the tables and all sorts of things. And it was a particularly nippy day, so they were, not that they needed their hats in here, but Diana did mention to me, we gave the teachers hats as well, and the chaperones, that she wore her hat home as it was chilly. It's like, me too. So there's that. And then Diane shared with me an email she received from one of our library users, which just says, Diane, it was Sunday yesterday, and I realized two things. One, I needed a book for a book club coming up, and help with a computer issue, not complicated. So I went to the library. I had called, and they had a paperback copy of the book I needed, and it was at the front desk. I could not get, next paragraph, I could not get some list for a project of films in an order that worked. And there was a lovely young man on the second floor who helped me in 5 minutes. So I walked out and thought, how lucky we are to have this. Nice accolades for the team here.
It's nice when people take the time out. to-
It do,
Yes.
So, let's see, with regards to other stuff going on, I just wanted to give you all an update on a couple of buildings and grounds things. The repair for the leak, they went up on the roof and they took care of putting up that metal sheeting to prevent the snowdrift from butting up against the penthouse and then leaking down. They also took care of a couple of spots on the roof that just needed patching. Roof's been up there since, at least 2016, probably a little bit before, and it's just that time where spots need to be patched. So they did a quick look around the roof, fixed some spots, and we were charged time and materials. What that is, I'm not sure, because they have not built me yet. But I can't imagine it's a tremendous amount. Let's see, the leak repair, which is mostly in the stairwell, and the replacement of some of these acoustic panels, ceiling tiles, if you will, is happening this week and next week. So the painting is going to take place tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. We will have to close this staircase because it's very high up, and there's going to be scaffolding and all sorts of things. But the elevator will remain accessible, and the historic spiral staircase will also be accessible for people to use to traverse among floors. And so that's where we are with the leak repair. I'm still waiting for a day and time on the schedule for the duct cleaning, but we're still hoping for a Monday because that sort of works best for the library's schedule in terms of programming and other things going on. Just about everybody went to a conference, which was great. As you know, Anthony spoke at Computers and Libraries, which was in the DC area at the end of March. Wanda and Ginta both went to the Public Library Association conference in Minneapolis. Richard got to go to a conference. Yes, they do facilities and custodial conferences too. And that was held at the Ward Melville High School. And then Catherine attended the New England Archivists Conference, which is a virtual conference, and I completed the food safe safety course. And I believe I passed. What I have not been able to do is successfully log in to print my certificate, but I aspire to. So all of these are good things. Why do I need to do the food safety course? We like to make sure that any staff doing programming or who's here with food, that we have somebody who is certified in food safety, just to make sure that things are being done correctly.
And that's recognized by the Suffolk County Department
It
of
is
Health.
recognized by the Suffolk County Department of Health.
Interesting.
It is actually a national course. Presumably I could take that show on the road if I ever need to leave town quickly. And start a new life in food services. So let's see, the annual report. The portal opened and every library director in New York State got busy filling it out as fast as possible. There are a couple of strange edit checks, which is just when they flag a question and say like, this answer doesn't make sense. One of the strange ones we had was about charging fines for materials. We don't, and it was like, this answer seems strange. Would you like to explain it? And I was like, you don't charge fines for materials. I selected no, it was a choice. So those things will eventually get worked out. There's always something to correct there. We're very busy planning summer programming. Our newsletter deadline is fastly approaching. We're very excited because this summer's theme is Unearth a Story. It is prehistoric and dinosaurs, which is my child's absolute favorite. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? So we're working really hard on prehistoric visitors to the library. We have a dinosaur wrangler and I believe a triceratops coming to our kickoff. And we are hoping, knock on wood, that we will be able to do our summer end of summer celebration at the park, because we're hoping to have a live Tyrannosaurus Rex sort of dance party situation go on. But the Tyrannosaurus Rex needs like 30 square feet, which we don't have anywhere in the building.
Do you know about when that would be?
August 22nd.
Oh,
Sounds adorable.
It does. So I know Emily is in touch with Nancy at the park. And they emailed today and Nancy said, let me bring it to the board. So hopefully that will happen. Other interesting things to think about. Thank you to everyone who gave me topics of interest for trustees discussion and professional development. Interestingly enough, artificial intelligence, advocacy, access to information, patron privacy were all subjects we were looking to do a deeper dive in. I did want to mention on Wednesday, June 3rd, which is a little bit, it's a couple of months from now, but it's rapidly approaching, at the Mattatuck Laurel Library on the North Fork, which also happens to be the library I began my career at. So it's like every time I go there, it's coming home. Is having Jerry Nichols, who's the retired director of the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, but also the co-author of the Handbook for Library Trustees, and Rebecca Smith Aldrich, who is the other co-author of the Handbook for Library Trustees. They also were the ones who started the Library Trustee Handbook Book Club. Will be there to present. They're going to talk about roles and responsibilities of trustees, which we have heard before, but from a little bit of a different perspective, and how in order to have a sustainable, lively, growing library and library community, it's important for the trustees to know their roles and their responsibilities and to, um, engage,
Do you have a time on it yet?
7 p.m. And then in July, we are working on an artificial intelligence presentation with a gentleman named Nick Tansey. He is the assistant director at, I believe, the South Huntington Library. But he speaks nationally and internationally as well on technology issues in libraries, specifically artificial intelligence. He's sort of like the go-to guy for artificial intelligence in libraries and library service, and what does that mean? And luckily enough, we sort of grew up in libraries together, and he's somewhat local in that he's in Suffolk County. And I asked him very nicely if he would drive to Sag Harbor in July, and he said he would. So
Is this for a board presentation?
for a trustee presentation,
presentation,
so
okay.
something that we're, as a zone, which is the 15 libraries on the East End, North Fork and South Fork, are trying to do is offer more and more opportunities and more diversity and topic of trustee training in person, which would be open to all the trustees in the zone, right? So that's the whole Riverhead to the end of the North Fork and Riverhead to the end of the South Fork. And so we're flip-flopping back and forth between the forks on a variety of topics, and there'll be 6 before the end of the year. So obviously, you know, like, you don't have to make it to all of them, but trustee training is required. And also it's nice to see what other libraries look like. It's nice to see what other libraries are doing. And it's nice to, you know, learn more about what's going on in library land. Another thing going on in library land is we will need to comply with ADA Title II by April of 2027. This specifically relates to basically digital content, web content, email, social media, multimedia, and we have to meet the WCG CAG 2.1 level AA standard. Please don't ask me what that stands for.
Is that basically mean you gotta have like a good font size and a specific font?
So yeah, so it means accessible fonts, high contrast, you can't use just color to indicate like importance or emphasis. There's 2 different types of acceptable formats to hashtags. We need to make sure that all of our digital content works well and is easily translatable into assistive software and devices. I'm trying to think what else, all of that. And so it is a lot of work, but it's not insurmountable work. And so we're pretty good. You know, we knew about this in probably April of 2025, was when we first caught wind of it. And so the Suffolk Cooperative Library System has been working to make sure all of our shared resources and our ILS, which is basically our circulating system and our catalog, are Title II compliance, making sure that all of our databases and resources are Title II compliance. Anything that we do as a cooperative purchasing order are compliant. So that would be like Ancestry and consumer reports, a lot of our databases. Other things that we purchase personally, like our library does, so like Hoopla, Canopy, Mango, which is language learning. We've already spoken to them, and they are, if they're not compliant, they will be compliant by the time we need them to. Other things to think about with regards to this, is anything that's like on our website, we don't have to, is grandfathered in, so we don't have to go back and make it compliance. So like board meeting minutes, right? Or video recordings from previously. We don't have to make compliant, but moving forward from the April 2027, they do need to be compliant. So if you're looking at this computer screen and you're like, what is this box down here? We now have to use the Zoom subtitles so that our video recordings are subtitled. So we'll be doing that. So it's little things that we have to do to make sure things work. There's back-end settings in Adobe, which when we turn things into PDFs, which will make those PDFs more accessible to assistive software. So it's just a lot of, like letting everybody know who turns something into a PDF or post something on our website or post to social media. It's a lot of training, making sure people are aware of what it is that we have to do and then getting into the practice of doing it.
Is this a federal?
It is. So there is that. So we're working on that, and you will probably hear more about it the closer we get to 2027. So there we are. Library advocacy, we're still waiting on New York State to approve their budget. A little bit of good news with relation to IMLS funding, which of course is the Institute of Museum and Library Services. As you know, the libraries won its case to make sure that IMLS is funded. And the federal government dropped their appeal and will not be pushed moving forward with any additional appeals or to challenge it again. However, I would still say be vigilant because when they're working on the federal budget, IMLS funding is not in there. So it's important that we continue to write our federal representatives. There is an appropriations letter. Nick Lalota is actually on the there's an appropriators letter, pardon me, but Nick Lalota is on that committee, so it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to send him an appropriators letter. But certainly you can reach out to him and tell him that he should be supportive and funding libraries, and as a constituent, we like libraries. So there is that. I attended some meetings. Let's see what else. Statistics, we're doing well, it's numbers are up, but also like snow is down. We're plugging along. We're doing, the best we can. And there we are. And
Thank you.
I do have also on my list under my report, I have my presentation. Which I can move into do you want to approve the personnel report first?
Yeah,
and then
let's
I'll do
approve the
presentation?
personnel report, so everybody view the personnel report.
Yeah.
Please get a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor of the personnel report?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
I have Dan and Lori.
Lori.
So let me pull up. Okay. So now, right? Okay, so this little box is just gonna. Just move it. Oh, I can move it. I'm just gonna continue to move that box around as we go. All right, so our library year in review. I do have print copies for you, which I will give out at the end of the meeting. But I want you to look at my presentation and listen to my dulcet tones. So here we are. First, well, let me go back. All right, so this is for budget year or fiscal year 2025. In 2025, our budget was $3.7 million. And how does that work out? It makes our operating spending, so that does not include the HVAC project, per capita, about $417.23, or $1.14 a day. So that's how much we spend at the library. So just a little reminder, John Jermain Memorial Library, our vision is to be the cornerstone of unfettered access to information and ideas while building an engaged community. And our mission is the John Jermain Memorial Library seeks to be a resource of information and ideas and to support the community's educational, civic, cultural, and recreational activities. Our service area is the Sag Harbor Union Free School District. We have a population of 8,545, according to the most recent US Census numbers. We have 5,085 active cardholders, which is about 65% of the community. Our service hours are 3,172. That is up 52 hours from previous years because we started staying open until 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. We have a total staff of 22, with 17 of those 22 being full-time, 5 part-time. If you did a deep dive into the annual report, that works out to 19.25 FTE, FTE being full-time equivalent. All right. So library use. We have a couple of graphs here. We have our door count. So you can see 2023 was a big year for door count, our biggest year. That was sort of our first year post-COVID. So in 2022 is when we started transitioning from programs that were mostly virtual to in-person programming again. And so we sort of increased our programming in 2023. More people were coming back. It was sort of our first, 2022 was sort of our first post-COVID year, but 2023 also as well. We do see a decline in 2025 of door count. As you know, we suffered many issues with our door counters. But if you look at some of the other things, with the exception of program attendance, circulation of materials is up. Reference questions being asked is up, but really stayed about the same amount as in 2024, because it's up by like 17 questions, right? So that's not a statistically significant, huge amount. What I think is really interesting is our computer use is up. So both use of library computers, which we were seeing a steep decline of. So in 2022, we had about 2,000. In 2023, we had about 1,800. In 2024, we had a shy 1,300. And then we were up to almost 1,400 computer use sessions in 2025. We also saw a tremendous increase of use of our Wi-Fi by unique devices. So that means people who are using our Wi-Fi either in the plaza or within the building.
Did we do something to improve the Wi-Fi, or is it just?
No, just use.
Just use?
And then, so people are using the library. So while I don't doubt that there was a reduction in number of individuals through the door per se, I don't think it's as steep as the door count would suggest. And I should say that when I do estimate, in the times when we had issues with the door counter, I tend to underestimate rather than overestimate, because I never want to be in a position where maybe fluffing our numbers, right? So there is that.
Can I just ask a question? So what does a reference question? Because if we look at 2025, we have 67,000, that's 85 questions in a day.
Yes.
So what are those, what does a reference question entail? That seems like a lot of questions in a
So
day.
yeah, so a reference question is basically anytime you have an interaction with a librarian or staff member in this building. So I'm looking for a book, right? I'm, like doing research, tell me about your library programs. We have a tremendous number of interactions during the day. You also have to remember that, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at any point in time, you've got between 10 and 15 people, or 10 and 15 employees in this building in different departments. And sometimes you get asked several questions in a day, right? So it's not a reference interaction, it's a reference question.
So everyone kind of keeps track of their own questions, and
Yes.
at the end of the day,
Yes.
you tally them.
So there is that. And then I do want to mention just a couple of things to consider again. 2022 was our first year of post-COVID. We also did a lot of team rebuilding. So that was, I started here in January of 2022. Starting in like December of 2021 was, Catherine, Rachel, Andrew. It was a lot. Kathy hired quite a few staff members before 2022. In 2023, we did the Glow Up, which was a 5-week closure during our quiet season. So that was basically, we closed right after the budget vote, and we were closed for the month of October and the first week of November. 2024 really felt like our first year. I wrote our first pre-COVID year where we saw library use to the levels, before COVID, people really were feeling more comfortable about coming out and using the library. It was also the first sort of season after our glow up, right? So we saw a tremendous boom in use of our children's room. We saw a boom in the use of our teen area, all of those things. So, people came in to see like the new space. What are we doing? How's it going? 2025, as you know, our door counters failed. So there's something to think about with that. We also were deep in the HVAC project, which, for a lot of the year, sometimes it was hot here, sometimes it was cold in here. Sometimes it was damp in here. So, people come to the library to be in a comfortable place. And I think it wasn't always comfortable during that project. So let's move on. All right, so library visits. We could probably call this more like library engagements, but I wrote visits, so we'll go with it. So we look at use of the library in a couple of different ways. The New York State Annual Report tends to be interested in in-person website visits, off-site and virtual program attendance. What we've seen is, when I was putting these numbers together, was a sharp decline in visits to our digital branch. And so I was like, what did we do in 2025 that people are not using our library website? And so I said, let's look at our social media, and let's look at some of the other things we did. So when we talk about in-person visits, again, we're sort of stuck using our door counter for that because that's what we used in 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025, right? Not going to beat that horse. Our digital branch is clicks on our homepage. We saw a huge decrease in that. But we do know that people are getting their information in different ways. People aren't going to websites anymore to get information. They're using social media. And so we post our events and our schedules on social media. They get really great engagement. You go from social media to, link in bio. Our link in bio goes right to our registration calendar. Our registration calendar is on our website, but it's separate software, it's a separate link, right? So they're actually like not going to our website, they're going to our registration software. So there's a couple of different things that are happening where people are really bypassing our website. And that's, we're attributing to social media and our new program registration. Previously, we would push people to the library's online calendar and then click through to register for your programs. We sort of feel that we want to provide an easy transaction for users, whether it be in person or virtual. And so it just makes sense for us to push people who are learning about library programs and whatnot from social media directly to that online registration. The other thing is, you know, for all intents and purposes, our collections, our digital materials collections, Libby, Canopy, Hoopla, they're apps. You know, there's no reason for you to go to our website and then click on it and use it, you know, through the website. Everybody has their app and their library card, you know, plugged into it. And so they're going to the app, they're just not going to our website. Virtual and off-site attendance, as you can see, it doesn't make out a ton, but I'm just gonna highlight over these so you can see them. Virtual and off-site attendance. It's really more or less, you know, sort of, it is what it is. There's nothing really just statistically significant there. Off-site attendance, a lot of our off-site programs include big events, because we can't always have big events here. So if we've done like Harbor Fest, is a big offsite program for us. If we do a big program at the park, that's an offsite program for us. Things like that. We also did a lot of offsite and virtual programs in the fall of 2023 because of the blow up. So circulation. Here is circulation by audience and material type. What you can see is digital items are increasing, physical items are decreasing, but ... Those are our biggest circulation, again, is digital items, with children's materials being the second largest thing that we circulate, specifically children's books, and then adult books. Teen books are, for the purposes of the annual report, lumped in with adult books. So once you transition, you know, anything that's in our teen collection is in that adult collection, and the New York State Annual Report is what we use to compare and contrast these numbers. Interlibrary loan, I always think is really interesting. You can see that library materials received, or items from other libraries borrowed from for our patrons, is going down, whereas the number of materials we are sending out to other libraries is going up. I think that's a good thing, because it means that the materials that we have in this library are the materials being requested, which means our librarians are doing a great job in collection development. With regards to digital items, we are comparing ebooks, e-audiobooks, e-serials, and e-videos. The annual report changed how they collect that data for years 2024 and 2025. Prior to that, it was just successful electronic downloads, which, what does that mean? Everything was lumped together and now it's not. So you can see ebooks still make up the lion's share of our digital items that are circulated. Audiobooks are the second most popular thing. E-serials are magazines. So that is predominantly Flipster, which is software that is digital magazines. Have any of you used Flipster?
Once or twice.
Flipster's like, I love Flipster for like an airport.
Yeah.
Like on an iPad, it's great.
Yeah.
They have lots of different choices in magazines. So they have, you know, some of the more tabloid-ier ones, but also really, you know, like fun gardening or you know, some of them.
Yeah, it's great to just download a few and like have them just.
And it
Ready.
flips
Yeah.
like a magazine, which is
Uh-huh.
fun.
Uh-huh. With your
Flipster.
library.
And you can access that with the library card. E-cereals is down a little bit, but again, you're talking 20 items. So, you know, and e-videos is down. However, there used to be e-videos as part of the SCLS shared collection, and there's not anymore, which could be attributed to that. So there we are. Other items, just so you know what's included in other items, that would be like DVDs, audiobooks, physical audiobooks, playaways, books on CD, library of things. As digital formats become more popular and cars are no longer being built with CD players and cars with CD players are being retired and recycled, we're going to continue to see a decrease in the circulation of physical materials. DVDs and audiobooks. There are actually some libraries that have gotten rid of their audiobook collections because they don't circulate. Everybody's pretty much moved on to Libby for audiobooks. So there's that. And then the other thing to think is sort of just keep in mind when people are using our digital resources, they are engaged in the library. They're maybe not coming in, but they're still using library materials. Program attendance by type. So we have a couple of different types of programming. We have on-site group programming. We have off-site programming, which is something that happens not here. We have one-on-one appointments. So if you need help with your iPad or your Android phone, or you're doing a research project with the archives or anything of that nature, that is a one-on-one program. Also included in one-on-one programs, as far as the state report is concerned, is notary services. So all of those things go into what is a one-on-one program.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
With Geek Hampton leaving, it might be a service that we want to promote a little bit more. For simple,
Yeah.
straightforward thing.
We can definitely. I feel like, you know, people know, they're like, we've already seen an uptick in people like.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad they knew
But
that they
we
can come
should
here.
still promote it. So there we are. We
They're not
all,
gone yet, right?
but they're not going yet. But I did see they're working on their storefront in Hampton Bays. Because I was there the other day and I was like, oh, that's where they're going. So other things to think about, virtual attendance. Again, we see virtual attendance going down. We're doing fewer virtual programs. The reason we're doing fewer virtual programs is because we don't get great attendance at virtual programs. People really want to be at in-person programs. And you know, we're looking to continue to expand our off-site programming. We find with our book clubs, people really like when we do our book clubs not in the library. Wednesday book club is stuck here. No, but people really enjoy when they're out. Just as an example, our New Romantics book club, which is sort of a book club for like romance novels. We do not get good attendance when it's here in the library, But when we had it at Barron's Cove, we had a great little group coming, and then we were like, oh, why aren't you coming anymore? And they were like, well, it was really great when I was at Barron's Cove, but I don't wanna sit in the library, I wanna go to Barron's Cove and have a glass of wine and eat french fries and, you know, so, having that sort of experience, I was like, I can bring french fries, they were like, it's not the same.
But it will be environment.
But it's nice, you know, and I think some of our book clubs are just more conducive to having other places, having more of a social setting. Not that this room isn't great, it's a multi-purpose room, it serves many multi-purposes. But you know, there's something to be said for being out in the community, and it's also good for us because it makes us visible in the community. So things to consider, in-person and program attendance is still the most popular way to attend. Offsite programming and offering continues to grow as we find new ways to push into the community. One-on-one programs have seen a significant growth. This includes tech help and citizenship classes. So, you know, when technology was new, you know, many moons ago, in the early aughts, a lot of technology programming could be done in groups, right? You know, I remember they used to have mousercise where you would come in and teach people how to use the mouse, and work on a laptop, keyboard, and all of those things. What we're finding now really is that tech programs work best when we do more lecture style for things like talking about AI or, you know, like social media. But when it comes to teaching people how to use technology, one-on-one seems to be our best bet. We also find that with these citizenship classes, having a classroom setting with multiple people is not the best way for us to assist individuals in participating in citizenship programming. So we really find that the one-on-one tutoring is something that has been incredibly successful in helping individuals study for that exam and pass it, which is something we've talked about a lot. So 2023, I think, was interesting. That was when we had our largest offsite programming use. I think a lot of that is likely due to both the Glow Up closure and a very well-attended Harbor Fest. Also, I believe that was the year we had not one, but two booths at Harbor Fest. So at one point, Harbor Fest had tried to move like the kids and the family stuff to Steinbeck Park before it was a park, when it was a little less beautiful than it is now, and have other stuff on the harbor. And so we had two booths that year, so that could have messed, you know, sort of messes with those numbers up too. Let's see, library use programs considered. So again, our all age programs tend to be high attendance events. So you're talking about Harbor Fest, Harbor Frost, summer reading kickoffs, end of summer celebration. If we have a bad Harbor Frost or a bad Harbor Fest, or like we did in 2025, a poorly attended summer kickoff because it was, or not kickoff, summer, end of summer celebration, it really does affect our numbers pretty dramatically. Again, we talked about this before, technology programs have moved to lecture and small group formats. But again, by audience, really our children's programs and our adult programs are the ones that are the most well attended. But our two biggest audiences are children's and adult. What's fun about teen programming is we see a you know, increase in teen programming, which is really nice. I know a lot of people have been concerned about teen usage in the library, and I'm always like, I swear they use the library. So statistically, they do. We've also talked about different things. Randall and I actually just the other day, we're talking about different things that we can do for the teens to utilize the library. So they're always here, when they're studying for exams, right before IB or, any of the big tests, midterms, finals, all those things. And so we talked about potentially staying open late after hours, for the teens so that they can study inside the library. Because there were several times last year in towards the end of the school year where, we left at the end of the day and the teens were just out in the plaza. And they were like, can we stay out here? And I was like, yes, you may. So, finding opportunities for them to be able to, do what they do here. That's not what I wanted to do. So anecdotal analysis. So the two things that sort of struck me is we had a decrease in program attendance and we had a decrease in door count for 2025. And so it's something that we as a staff had talked about in the fall of last year because we saw the biggest drop off. It was ultimately in our summer numbers, summer attendance of programs and summer door count. And so the complaints that we would get was a lack of parking around the building, made it difficult for our patrons to get to the library. And so what library patrons were doing is once they got a parking spot and they were here, they did stay longer. They picked up extra books, or instead of coming in and picking up that book on hold, they would wait a couple of days to pick up their hold so that it coincided with when they were coming for a program, so that they didn't have to fight for parking. With regards to renters, our children's librarians indicated that several of our sort of tried and true families who come in every summer did not come in or came in less often. And so those families had shorter rentals. There were a couple of August families who usually do the whole month of August and they were only here for a week or 2 weeks. We had one family who visited us at Harbor Fest and they came by so the kids could say hi. They did not come out at all this summer and they were like, we're so glad you're here because we're just out visiting for the weekend and we wanted to just, say we really missed you this summer. So I think, working and the rental situation out here has changed some of the dynamic, especially in our children's department. Building comfort, again, it was hot and cold and humid and dry and never at the correct time for what we were looking for. Also construction made it difficult for our families to sort of stay and play on the lower level after programs, or even, during programs or using the library because there were a couple of weeks there where we had zipper walls and people going back and forth. We had to cancel programs, primarily family programs while they were doing work. And then also, the zipper wall was blocking the bathroom. So we either had to escort them to the restroom through the zipper or have them go upstairs. So it definitely sort of changed the way things go. And then seating in private spaces. So the building was crowded. That was the one thing we all agreed on. We were like, every seat had a butt, but not every butt had a seat, right? And so we were sort of feeling like, we would have people who would come in the morning and stay all day. So there was a lack of seating, if you will, during the summer because again, people were here all day and staying seated. And there was also, again, frustration with availability of the workroom. So we have that little workroom on the main floor. And people really love to use that as private space to work with the door closed for either small group meetings or to take Zooms, or we have college students who do or interviews and things of that nature. And so we that last summer was sort of our busiest summer for that space. We put in a system for room reservations for that space as well. So we, blocked out 2-hour blocks for people to use that space, which seemed to work. And we would allow people to Zoom on the main floor as long as, they have their headset on and we're speaking their
I
business
thought people weren't allowed to close the door.
of the workroom.
Or,
They
no.
can close the door of the workroom, they just can't pull the shade.
Oh,
Are there cameras in there? I'm just curious,
There
we-
is not, which is why we won't let them pull the shade, but adding a camera is on the list for the camera upgrade project. That was one of the things we wanted to do, was add a camera in that space.
Would that inhibit users if they know that it's a camera?
I think we have security cameras throughout the entire building. It's the security cameras that we have are, after events, video only, it's not audio.
Quick question, so on a real busy day, do people share the tables, the workspace,
do.
the Scala?
They do. They do. So it's just, it's one of those things where like, even like soft seating for people to sit comfortably and read. And a lot of that is just sort of one of those things where it's like, we're a shy 15,000 square feet. You figure each floor is 5,000 square feet. I know that there were times where if we didn't have programs in here, we would often let people work in here. And so what I probably assume we'll end up doing this summer is just have like a basic setup for when this room is not used by library programs, so that people can come in and sit here and work.
So you'll set up these tables?
We'll set up these tables and people can sit in here. It's not the quietest part of the library, but we do the best we can. I've also been sort of looking into, I'm gonna call it a Zoom room because everybody loves a rhyme, but they do make pods. But again, you sort of need space for your pod. And we're still really trying to figure out where the best space for that pod is, but also these pods, and there's lots of libraries that have them. I don't know if anybody local has one yet. But those pods, have their own air circulation system. They have power, they have lights, they're quiet spaces. There's a certain amount of privacy, but we can still see in to make sure nobody's doing anything nefarious in there. So then again, it's like not only finding space, but finding a space where we can run electricity, right? Because our building, especially in the historic parts, or the parts where the historic part meets the new part, it's not easy to run electric or wire, internet wire. So that's sort of where the staff is at. The other thing we sort of also talked about, was that, again, 2024, was the first season with our new digs, right? And so people were excited to come in, see the new space, see the new programming space. There was a lot of excitement and engagement, and we're not necessarily like, like there's other libraries doing exciting things as well. Like Rogers just completed in 2025 a renovation of their children's room and their children's space, right? So what we do know is the libraries out east have a lot of library hoppers and a lot of people who use multiple libraries. So there is that. I just did a quick SWOT analysis because I always think those are interesting. So our strengths are always that we're established, we've been here since 1910, we're beloved by our users and our community, people trust us. So we have a solid foundation. We have a solid foundation in our service plan and in knowing what it is that we do and what we can do. We're always listening and looking for new opportunities. We're also well funded by local tax dollars, and we've been very fortunate in regards to private donations. Our weaknesses, really, we're maxed out on space. We're maxed out on schedule. So the library, it seems like we're open a lot of hours. But it's not as many as one would think. And staff responsibilities. We have staff of 22. It sounds like a lot of people. It's not a lot. It takes a lot of people to run a library. So, when you take into account what everybody's already doing, adding additional workload would require adding additional people, adding additional hours to the library schedule would require adding additional people. It is what it is, right? Doing more, pushing out into the community requires more people because we need people here and there, right? And all of that is related to, funding as well, right? Because as much as, I know that everybody who works here would love to just volunteer and not work for money. We all come to work for money, and purpose. So it's one of those things that we know we can't sort of expand in our space any more than we already have. Our space is our space. So the goal is obviously push out more in the community, expand our hours, but that, there's a little bit of a push and pull there. And so how do we mitigate that? Opportunities, always to strengthen our partnerships and engage in new partnerships with community organizations and businesses. To meet our non-users where they are, to listen and experiment, to expand or adjust our hours. And I threw in artificial intelligence because what is that and how do we see it as an opportunity and not a threat, because I put it under threats as well. So we have a lot of opportunities to succeed. We have a lot of opportunities to grow. We're in a space right now where, you have to think like Nancy Reese, like it feels like Nancy's been here forever and it feels like Nancy has been doing adult programming forever, but she's still generally new to that position. I believe she started it in 2024, 2025 was her first year doing it. Randall, 2025 was his first year here as the teen librarian. Like everybody's really, there's a learning curve, right? I always think of things in like 3 years, right? Like first year is to learn the job. Second year is to, do the job on your own. Third year is where you really start to shine. And then when we talk about threats, always concerns about federal and state funding, freedom of information and right to read. What does that look like on a local level? What does that look like on a state level? Maybe what's most important is what does that look like on a federal level? Rising cost of digital collections, and the availability of digital collections. Right now, our digital items, like they're in the cloud, right? They're not a tangible thing. And we own it based on a subscription, right? So like, depending upon the model, I own this book for 26 checkouts. But if Libby decides to no longer have that item, then I don't have it anymore, right? So there's issues related to digital collections. And what does that mean? Net neutrality for anybody who, everybody knows what net neutrality is? Maybe? Okay, so net neutrality is basically that the internet is for everyone and everyone should have access to everything on the internet. Digital divide. I think sort of one of the things that sort of speaks to that digital divide is the earlier slides you may have seen, we had a sharp increase in people using our Wi-Fi and people using our computers. That to me says that they don't have Wi-Fi at home and they don't have a computer at home. And so, is the digital divide getting wider? Is it becoming difficult for people to have access to high-speed, reliable internet at their homes? We have an aging population in Sag Harbor. We have an issue with affordable housing. We know that many individuals are selling their houses and moving out of the area. So changing population demographics, we know that, ICE and, immigration, enforcement has directly affected, use of the library by our, native Spanish speaking, library users. Many of who have also moved out of the area. And then again, threats, artificial intelligence, everybody's very good at throwing whatever they need into ChatGPT and hoping it's, what they're looking for. It isn't always the case. So, again, I throw this on here because we have a lot of opportunities, we have a lot of strengths. I think we're really lucky here that the team plays to their strengths very well, and their strengths are different, right? So everybody brings something to the table here, and everybody's always willing to work together. And then here we are at the end. This is our photo from our from the We're Open magazine that 27 East puts out. We do an ad in it every year. So there we are on the steps in our matching shirts, because we love a matching moment here. But in conclusion, I think if as we look at the graphs and we go through, each year is a little bit different. Sometimes we're a little higher on something, sometimes we're a little lower on something. Circulation is up, some years and down years, but generally speaking, we are consistent. We're consistent in what we provide, we're consistent in library use. With 2025, again, we saw that sort of reduction in program use. We saw that reduction in door counter use. We know, and we're working on it. But I think it's also really important to know that the way people are using the library and the way that people are engaging with the library is different, right? It's not it's evolving. It's not walking in and using the collection anymore. It's not coming in and picking up your DVDs anymore, right? For a long time, DVD use, we used to laugh and say that libraries put Blockbuster out of business. And I still think that we did to a certain extent. But again, there's a different, there's a different use of the library. And so that's what we've got going on. I did print you all copies of this presentation, which I will leave you at the end, before we leave tonight, but that's where we're at. That's what we've got going on at the library.
Thanks,
Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was great.
Well done.
Can I ask, so is that, since this is my first time seeing this, other people, is that a program that you fill out? That, I mean, the structure, it's not Canva, it's not, Adobe, it's something that the Nyla sends you in order to capture data, or?
So what I did in Canva is I basically created a PowerPoint presentation. We don't call them that anymore, they're slide decks. So I made a slide deck. But all of the information I use, with the exception of the social media statistics, which came out of software we use to post to social media called Later. That came from Later Analytics, but all of that information is from the New York State Annual Report for Public and Association Libraries. And that is a form we fill out, and we'll discuss that under new business for New York State every year. And it's the annual report. In many ways, we hit like a square peg round hole situation because public libraries are funded differently than association libraries. There's just a lot of difference in how things are done. So, and as library service evolves, and library, collections evolve, it changes the survey, so you can't always compare apples to apples. You just kind of have to work on, like, it's fruit. So where we sort of saw that in this presentation would be when you talk about circulation of digital materials. Moving forward, I can break out, this is an ebook, this is an audiobook, this is a video, but in previous years, we didn't do that. Years ago, we used to talk in terms of, instead of virtual programming, you know, there were parameters for virtual programming and asynchronous and, you know, synchronous. Now it's like live programming is defined by this versus recorded programming. So they're constantly trying to make it easier, but in making it easier, some of the things to compare don't always mesh. But it's because how we do things change. A lot of the recorded and the synchronous and asynchronous and all of that came up during COVID because our service models drastically changed for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So it's just, you know, sort of by virtue of what's going on in libraries and how libraries have changed from year to year.
Good, thank you.
So when you complete the survey as you did and hand it in, do you get feedback? Or do you get suggestion, or it's just basically that, you know, you need to complete it, but there's nothing coming back to you?
To me, nothing. So what comes back to me, like when you go through the process of doing the annual report, you will get something called an edit check. So they're gonna go back and they're gonna be like, huh, you had 20,000 library card holders in 2024, and now you only have 8,000. That's weird. Explain it. And so then we go in and explain it. You know, I think one of the edit checks this year was your local government funding, which is our tax dollars, does not fall in the ratio of the New York State report or what we believe the ratio to be. And I was like, well, we fall outside the ratio. The number is the number. I'm not sure what that means. But again, you're looking at, we're a library of a certain size in a very different socio-economic sort of area than maybe a library of similar size in upstate New York or a huge library in Western New York. So there's like different things that they might ask as an edit check, but generally speaking, any feedback we receive is they're looking at our numbers and they're like, that doesn't seem quite right. Is that correct? Yes or no? And if it is correct, just give us a little note to explain why it's an outlier.
So,
But do they give us feedback on like, atta girl, you guys are doing great, or
no,
No.
or even just recognition of a trend across
Yeah.
libraries of your size or
no,
nothing,
no.
nothing collective.
no, it's really New York. So DLD, which is the Department of Library Development, aggregates all these numbers and does information with it, but all of it is really tied to federal funding, federal grants, things of that nature, explaining like use by libraries in New York State. So the report is really more for the Department of Library Development to use than it is for anything else. It is nice for us to be able to sort of say like, hey, we do this, hey, we do that. The other thing the state report is used for, and every state has their own version of the New York State annual report, is Library Journal uses it to give out star library designations. But even they recognize that, again, you know, like oftentimes they're comparing apples to oranges, but also your fruit. So that isn't always the greatest indicator of ability to serve the community.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess we can move on to committee reports. The personnel meeting,
Personnel did not read.
finance and budget,
No,
buildings and grounds.
Nope.
Policy. And
No.
range,
We emailed.
email meeting, but I guess we could talk about that when we get to. Mash Park met last Wednesday evening right here. And, you know, they always talk about, repairs that need to be made. They're still talking about repairs when I was on the board 4 years ago that need to be made. They want to have a 3-year contract with the school district. The school district wants a 1-year contract. So I guess they'll work that out and, hopefully the new improved tennis court will be ready soon. I know they still had to paint the lines. They were held back by weather. And one of the baseball fields needs clay. So they are arranging to get a delivery of clay and have it spread and share the cost with the school district and maybe Little League and the pub. And that's about it for the pub. Yep. All right. Old business.
Oh, we aspire to get this off here. So HVAC, it's working. Hooray. I think I said this at the last meeting, they did replace the compressor, but they found a couple other things they'd like to fix, just replace. Nothing that necessarily directly affects the use of it, just things where they're like, let's do that now, because, you know, we don't want to have to come back later. Sound blankets, we're still waiting on sound blankets. It's my understanding that the ones for the the bordering the fence, bordering our neighbor on Union Street, that blanket has arrived. And so it will be installed sooner rather than later. They have to take the front part of the fence off, remove the blanket that's there, put this one on. Have the sound engineer come out and go, yes, now it's the right blanket, and then put the fence back up. Once that's done, then we will fix the landscaping on that side, because those trees did not fare well with the winter weather. They're a little wonky. And so that's where we are with the HVAC. The other blankets are a couple of weeks out. I think last I spoke with Volker from Belfour, they're about 3 weeks out. So that's it on the HVAC project. I'm so glad, that's it. That's it, yes.
Okay, down to 3 minutes. Okay, bylaws amendment.
So these are all the policies that we did a first read of at the last board meeting. I don't believe there were any other, let me go up to page 47. Again, with regards to the bylaws, we talked about removing the outreach committee. So that is still what is on the table as the amendment to the bylaws. And you just have to
I presume everybody read all this in their board packet, went through it. Okay. So. Any questions? So then, can we make, can somebody make a motion to approve the bylaws amendment?
Motion to approve
the
the
bylaws.
bylaws amendments.
Anybody to
I'll
second? All in favor? Any opposed?
I'm gonna say no,
You're
for the
opposing.
reason that I stated last
Okay.
meeting.
I'm also gonna say no. Okay, so the motion passes based on majority. Okay, policy amendments.
Okay, so policy amendments. Do you want to take them one at a time?
Or if everybody's read them,
Might be easiest to take them one at a
Okay,
time,
then
so
what-
I can
okay.
like
then go.
basically give
Sure.
you what the amendment is
Okay.
and then vote and we'll just.
Okay,
go
very
through them.
good.
Um. So public speaking policy, again, we want to be more consistent with other libraries and also in keeping with open meetings law. And so the policy is basically the same as what you saw in the previous month, but we included the addition of
Address.
the address. So it says speakers should identify themselves by name and address and any organization they may be representing at the meeting and the topic they wish to discuss.
Mhm.
So you want to follow?
Okay, I'm getting a motion to approve this policy for public speaking.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, amendment on, public speaking is approved.
So, Board of Trustees indoctrination. So what we are looking to do is to update the language in it, so that it reflects what we actually do for trustee indoctrination. And it, reduces the number of things that you get as handed to you as a new trustee, just because some of it is out of date and, some of those documents are all in one document. It also includes that you're required, to complete a minimum of 2 hours of trustee education annually as per education law 260D.
Okay, any questions about this amendment? Okay, then somebody please make a motion to approve the board. Board of indoctrination and training.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes for the approval of indoctrination and training amendment.
'59, so policy for board approval of director compensation. We are updating it so that it is in accordance with the terms and performance standards set forth in my employment contract.
Does anyone have any question about this?
So you're just adding that line to
yes.
the, okay.
Yeah, that's just an addition. Okay. Any other question about that? Okay, can somebody please make a motion to approve the director's compensation amendment?
I'll make a
Make a
motion. Good. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The board approves the director compensation amendment.
Okay. Records retention and disposition, we are, throwing out what we have, which references, the MI1 schedule and Article 57A. It's actually been replaced by the New York Local Government Records Schedule, LGS-1, Article 57A. So basically, we're updating it with the new records retention policy required by New York State.
Any questions? Okay, can somebody please make a motion to approve the records and retention and disposition amendment?
I'll make a motion to approve the records retention and disposition.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A motion passes to approve the records retention and disposition amendment.
So the
And
next
then on
one,
to the last one.
no,
Not
no.
Last one on
we're
this
still
page.
these for days. my
Right,
friend.
right, okay, keep going to the
Okay,
next page.
so the
Library
library investment policy, what the policy committee and I got to the bottom of was basically the investment policy and the policy expanded were two separate documents at one point, and they got smushed together. And when they were smushed together, nobody read that they were very repetitive. So and thank you to Paula, for working on this. What we ended up doing is removing the repetitive language, because it's literally the same thing twice. And then taking out the, investment policy expanded and simply, going with that. So basically, the investment policy expanded, is the policy because it included everything that was in the investment policy. And then also remove this wording, who shall establish written procedures for the operation of the investment program consistent with the investment guidelines. So the expanded policy, I believe, was meant to be the written procedures for the operation of the investment program consistent with the investment guidelines in the investment policy. Does that make sense? Great. So we just changed that to as set forth in this policy. Because the investment guidelines are set forth in this policy.
Yeah, any questions about that? Can somebody, oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
M&T Investment Group. Is that the umbrella for something?
M&T is where all of our money is, oh God, I'm bad at that word. Collateral.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yep, yep.
I
Okay.
usually trip on that one.
No, that's right. Okay.
You good with that answer?
Mhm.
Okay.
No, it's all coming back to me now.
Okay.
I've got a lot of things.
Right. Can somebody please make a motion to approve the amendment to the library investment policy?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes to approve the library investment policy.
Repayment of unapproved bills. Alrighty, so again, when we talked about this, we decided to just make it a payment of bills policy. And so we replaced it with, basically what our procedure is for paying, bills. And then also listing all of the things that we can pay between board meetings, which are basically the things that were listed here anyway. And it's so that we don't, incur late fees or, disruptions to service.
Any questions on that? Can somebody please make a motion to approve the amendment to the payment of bills?
I'll make a motion to approve
Well, we're
the
changing
prepayment of unapproved bills and payment of bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Bill payments. So. Purchasing and procedure.
Purchasing and procurements. All right, so we looked at this policy. I believe this is the same as it was when we looked at it and reviewed it at last month's meeting. Basically to raise the approval cost of items from 10,000 to 1250, which is just inflation. But also the wording was ambiguous. And so the changes sought to specify what it was that buildings and grounds could approve outside of a board meeting, because I believe the language had previously said something to the effect of buildings and grounds or the board, and it can't be both.
But can a committee approve something like that? Don't they just recommend it to the full board?
So a committee can approve if that power is given to them by the Board of Trustees, either through resolution or through policy. And so the purchasing and procurement policy had given permission for buildings and grounds to approve certain expenditures. So this seeks to clarify how much buildings and grounds could spend. Because you wouldn't want buildings and grounds to like put a wing on, right? We're putting a third floor. So that's basically what we're doing here.
So this prior to this amendment, Building and Grounds was already allowed to approve up to $10,000.
No, I was allowed to approve up to $10,000 of spending on my own for a particular item or service. What this seeks to do, and then anything more than that would go to Buildings and Grounds or the Board of Trustees. With the thought that if it was a Buildings and Grounds related item, Buildings and Grounds could approve it, so it could be moved forward on a timely manner, so, but it didn't specify just Buildings and Grounds things. So what we're seeking to do here is to allow Buildings and Grounds to say, yes, Kelly, it seems reasonable to have the library gallery walls repainted. Not that that would cost $12,000, but let's say it did.
The way I look at it with the buildings and grounds things is that if we wait for the board meeting, let's say these windows get smashed
Mhm,
and they're gonna cost $15,000 to replace.
mhm.
If we wait until the monthly meeting, get approved from the whole board, it could be a month and a half before we get these done. But if the buildings and grounds can say, yes, we definitely need to go ahead and do that.
Mhm.
It's not that we're going around, trying to go around the board.
Yeah.
It's really to prevent time-sensitive buildings and grounds items from being held up, waiting for everybody to talk about it.
Mhm.
So like, again, I don't even wanna say HVAC, but like, let's say, upgrade of the sprinkler system outside, right? Like, if we need to do that, during the start of sprinkler season, we wanna be able to do that. We don't wanna wait until June to fix that, right? Or, I think the best example of this would be the, duct cleaning. So the reason the duct cleaning went to the entire board is because our policy was ambiguous. It said that items should be brought to Buildings and Grounds or the board as a whole. And so it was like, so which is it? Is it that I can go to Buildings and Grounds and say, hey, it's gonna cost me $15,000 to get my ducts cleaned, can we move ahead with this, or does it have to go to the full board? And so what we did, because the current policy was ambiguous, is it went to Buildings and Grounds said, okay, let's recommend this to the board, and then we sent it to the board as a whole. And now we're behind on where we could have been to get our ducts cleaned, which is something we've discussed, we know we need to do, it's maintenance of the building. There's just certain maintenance-y things that tend to cost a ton of money that
Doesn't mean it's a
Yeah.
rubber stamp, it just
yeah,
means.
no, no.
And what's the limit?
It's anything more than $12,500, but less than $25,000, and it pertains to the maintenance and or repair of the library's buildings and grounds. So it's only buildings and grounds issues, so buildings and grounds couldn't come in and be like, we're going to spend, like $60,000 to have Oprah on speak. She was giving us a really good deal. Or something that wasn't buildings and grounds related.
And also if buildings and grounds can say, I really think that this needs to be brought to the whole board, this is not something that buildings and grounds, it's not. It's not, how do I describe it? It's not an abuse of power, it's sort of like it's an emergency stopgap.
Mhm.
I look at it that way. I mean, it's not, I think it's just to sort of prevent you from being in a situation where you're going to be held up unnecessarily.
And that information can't be garnered in an email because we can't, like you make a suggestion in a Buildings and Grounds and it's 20,000. So that can't go to an email and say, for the sake of time?
That is, you mean to the whole board in a
Yeah.
meeting? No, that would be a.
Conducting business.
Conducting business outside of the work meeting, so that would be, in violation of open meetings law.
Well, basically, it's for emergency repair or to get some, schedule a service.
Mhm. Between
Yeah.
$12,500 and
Right, that's the
$25,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions about the amendment to purchasing and procurement? Okay. Can somebody please make a motion to approve the amendment to purchasing and procurement?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, and then purchasing and procurement policy.
I just realized, we left out one policy, we left, the meeting went out, and we worked so hard on the wording of that. So that one we'll look at the main meeting, and I apologize. I was, doing this from.
All right, moving along to new business.
Okay, so Belfort team. So here's a new one. Belfort is giving us some money back. Hooray. So part of the permitting process and getting our closing out our project is having an updated survey of the building done. We use Rainer Group. That is not somebody who is in Belfort's bullpen of surveyors, and so we paid for the survey, and then Belfort is reimbursed us for the funds. Because they're in charge of all of that other stuff, so we just need to approve that we would like Belfort to give us $1,965.
I'll make a motion.
That sounds good.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes for the Belfort change order.
Okay. Annual report to New York State. So we talked about a lot of what was in here. We talked about what New York State does with this, which is important for federal funding. And the numbers are what they are. I always say that, it seems a little, it's a difficult thing because you all look at it once a year. And you have you don't have any tools to succeed. You have nothing to compare it to. You don't, it's very jargony, right? Like, what is a literacy program? What isn't a literacy program? What do we consider a live event versus a recorded event, Thankfully, they got rid of synchronous and asynchronous. That was the one that always broke everybody's brain. In terms of the financial part, what falls under this category, what falls under that. But you are required to look every year regardless. And so, I filled it out. I got all my edit checks done. I found the typo I made in the trustee names and addresses.
Did every trustee approve their information?
I hope you looked at your information and made sure it was correct. There was one email where I said John Jermain instead of Jermain. But
What page is the,
I have fixed it.
I didn't look at it.
what page is the trustee minutes?
It's like one of the last ones.
Yeah. You know what I'm gonna do?
100 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not written in any sort of easy way, because again, we're using a different format this year, and it doesn't print as nicely, right? So those are our government totals.
Sorry.
Okay.
There it is.
There it
Oh,
is.
you
All right.
were right.
Choppy.
It is kind of choppy.
Oh.
We don't love this. It used to be much neater.
Right, Lori Gibbs
Can you
House, that
scroll
one's
down?
right.
Okay,
Paula Wagner, she's not.
she's not here, but I'm pretty sure
Paula
it's
A.W.
Paula W. At,
It's, oh, thank you.
there you go.
Oh, is it supposed to have the full address? Cause mine's just a number.
It is Hamilton.
11 Hamilton.
Oh, there it is.
It's this page.
It's the front, yeah.
Because this is how it prints. It prints landscape and in this horrible grid.
Mine's fine.
Okay.
John, her officer, under me, I don't know.
Yes, those are two different columns. You
Okay.
were, your email address was John Jermain, like johnjermain.org.
Oh, okay,
But I did fix that.
the rest of
Um,
it,
The rest of it's correct.
yeah, thank you.
Everybody's good? Okay.
And that's just for us to know, right?
That's just for you to know. So when I put the board packet online, I did redact your addresses. But the Department of Library Development does have your addresses. And the federal government does, but they have them anyway.
Here goes my witness relocation.
Right.
So that is that.
But you're not using it, that name anyway.
Does anyone have any questions about the annual report? You had the opportunity to read it in the packet. Any questions? Can somebody please make a motion to approve the New York State annual report?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the board approves your diligent hard work and filling that thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to period for public expression. None. Okay, no executive session.
I'd like to make a motion at 7:43 to 7:41 to adjourn the meeting.
All in, oh, somebody second it? Everybody wants to second this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone want to stay longer?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.